But to my knowledge, it's not cut as much. They're still cutting logs, but they're mostly using them to fill in the swamp, make it more compacted and stuff with the other material. Back then, those were like for posts for the house, to actually put the house on and get them up. So I don't see much of that going on, but I do see in certain areas trucks going out with logs, the smaller logs to fill in. That has changed. In most of the building now, they're using other materials that not from the island. Before they used more from the island, but made a bill like what? Maybe 3 houses a year, 4 houses. The rate was very slow compared to today. Today it's probably like 10 or 12 houses on construction every other so and so. So then that has changed.
So what other changes that you think that are very outstanding now?
Okay. The place was more open, then the fences came up. We always had a fence, but it was, what do they say, these, like garden fences with flowers and plants and trees, and you kept it low. You could always see the neighbor or the house and things. So now with the development and progress and whatever they want to call it, now you see big fences, you cannot even see who's or what's going on the next side. That has changed. On the main street, even people still, certain utilities you can see they still do maintaining this. They still keeping the fence where when you walk you can see the ocean. And now the new developers, they're just putting up their fence and you actually can't walk on the main street and see the water. You have to be by the dock or the pier or into a business that open to the water. So that becoming, you can feel this frustration in the people. They don't know probably why, but that's part of it. You're gonna live in a place and not have direct access to what's been surrounding it. It's kind of difficult.
So how would you describe the Black Creole relationships to the environment?
The Black Creole relationship to the environment. Okay. That's a good one. I say the good ones is the ones that you need to know more, huh? Well, growing up, I would think that we were more, okay, if you went to fish, you wasn't gonna get certain fish. You respect that fish, oh no, we don't eat that fish. It was basically what? Kingfish, barracuda, jackfish, snapper, and certain fish, no. And certain size, we would also respect the size of the fish that you caught. You wasn't gonna get these little scraps or little small, they had to be, a certain size that you say, wow, 3 or 4 people could eat off this fish. Then we're gonna catch it, or if it not, you release it. Today, it doesn't matter what size it is, they're taking it, and it's actually not much in the area like it used to be. That has been a big change in experience along. And if you go into the woods, the nature is not like, oh, you're gonna go out for a walk in the bush and then you come out, you have plantains, cassava, yucca, the different people that were cleaning their land or farming, they would just hand it to you, or you go and buy something and they give you 3 or 4 other things. That has changed. Now what's going on is basically you can't walk and just get anything. You gotta pay for everything. And plenty people has got frustrated and they has cut down. Like I know a certain person cut down maybe 5 of his lime tree because he said, well, since me coming there every time I need a lime, I can't get it because they're taken. Also with a couple of mama trees, the same thing has happened. He said, I don't mind them picking what's fallen, or if they ask, take a couple, but they're gonna take a sack load of it. They're not just gonna take 4 or 5 of the fruits. And repeating it over and over just got them frustrated and cut the tree down. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
So now that you mentioned trees and fish, so did any members of your family ever share stories about the ecology that has to do with our culture? And when I say our culture, I mean with the Black culture. Like about probably if any trees or leaves or plants were medicinal, or because you mentioned some sort of fish you didn't eat, but then did you get stories of why you didn't eat this fish, or why this plant, or why this tree, or why this fruit was not to be eaten? Like the noni. I remember the noni when I was growing up. I was like, don't touch that. That is
That's poisonous.
is poisonous. And then somebody discovered something about the noni. And for some time, noni was actually being exported from Utila and being sold on the mainland, because it was, the leaves were good for something and the fruit was good for another thing. So I mean, I'm just giving that as an example, but do you remember any stories that were shared about that?
That I could recall, it would be the noni. As a kid, no, you could not even touch it, don't even go near that tree. It always was by the ocean side though, for some reason. It wasn't in like now, it's in the earth here, or the mud. It was mostly by the sandy area. But it was like forbidden, I don't know about it being exported at that time, maybe more recently, more in the 90s, it started that, but in the 80s, even in the 70s, that was poison. You were gonna get your death if you ate that fruit. For what reason? I guess, maybe it wasn't discovered, who knows? Yeah. Which other? And then, basically, just a noni that I could recall.
Okay. So what do you believe are the key environmental priorities on the island?
I think it should be mandatory if you're gonna cut down certain amount of trees to build a house or construct your business. You should put back so many. At least figure out what's needed to create the amount of oxygen, that it needs to help the environment, because at the rate we go in, I don't know in another 20 years what's gonna happen to this island. Well, the island gonna be doing its thing. We're the one putting our life in jeopardy.
So what are the main natural or environmental assets on the island?
Assets. That's great. Tell me more when you say assets, or do we got?
Yes. So our
Mm-hmm.
natural assets.
The
Let's
best
say
things
we
to
have
do-
the businesses, but also, because when we say natural assets, it's like we have the reef, our beaches somehow, we have our endemic species. So those we can call our natural assets that we have. And then
Como patrimonio.
son activos, son activos. And then what would be the ways that these assets are vulnerable now? Like the swamper,
Like the blue crab
like the
right
blue
now.
crab. So those would be species that are so vulnerable that they're almost in the extinct section. Our reefs, how are they vulnerable now? They can get sick because of so many contamination going into the water, you know, stuff like that. So, Ms. Julia, how has the relationship to local natural resources has changed over the course of your lifetime? Now, it would be like, what are the forces of change? What do you think has impacted? What has changed? Like, if you have met someone that hasn't been here like in the last 10 years and they come up to you, what is it that they actually mention that I can't